All right, hello, wine drinking people. We are back, and it is Tuesday, April 19th, and getting ready for a whole lot of drinking to be talked about here in the What I Drank Yesterday, because we have got some tastings from late last week. We got the Great Wine Seminar, which this is an event that happens every year right around this time. We have a professional moderator come in for the event, Clive Coates, who's been here more times than any other moderator, and then a half a dozen producers, some of the greatest producers of France, of course, because France produces some of the greatest wine in the world. And every once in a while, they throw out a California producer in there. We had Opus One last year. David Pearson, the CEO, was in. This year, we had a Spanish producer. Hey, it's Miami. Come on. Vega Cecilia, Pablo Alvarez flew in Saturday night, flew out Sunday after a seminar. But first, let's get started with where the weekend started, folks. Madiera. Friday night, our once-in-a-lifetime tasting. Madiera, which is an island off the coast of North Africa, also boasts its own type of wine. And there's four main types of Madiera, which Surcial, Verdejo, Bual, and Malmsey, which most people that have heard of Madiera have heard of. But we had some unique Madeiras that I've never even had Bastardo before. I had my first Bastardo this weekend. And then, of course, Tarentaise, which is the Z is a sh kind of sound, which I learned from Mr. Manny Burke. In addition to having Clive Coates, who knows everything about French wine, very little about some other parts of the wine world, but hey, he's an MW, so we're not going to trash Clive. He's got a very unique English accent with a very rasp to his voice, and you're going to get to hear my Clive Coates, trust me, my Clive Coates impersonation in some of these reviews on this seminar. And then we had, of course, Dr. Bob Malner, good friend, and one of the leading authorities on Madeira there to present the wine. Some of the wines came from his cellar, and then Manny Burke from the Rare Wine Company. VA Vines is his import company. This is the company that brings in most of these vintage old Madeiras into the United States today. And let me tell you, I was first introduced to this wine at the Great Wine Seminar, and after that time, I was searching for everything vintage Madeira. These wines, very hard to come by. It's very unique to find a wine that is kept in cask for 100 years or more, with some of these wines. These old wines from Madeira kept in cask for over 100 years. They don't do that today. The evaporation factor and the fact that, we need to sell things. We need to make that money. We got to get paid for these things. We can't wait 100 years anymore to get paid. This style of wine is a dinosaur. Well, it's unique because when they ferment the grapes, most of them are white except for one, Bastardo, is a red grape. The names of the grapes are the names of the wines are the types of grapes: Verdelho, Surcial, Bual, Malvasia. And after they ferment these wines, they put them up in the attic to roast at like 100 degrees. So these wines have already been killed, man. They're walking zombies. They're already dead. But a really unique bouquet. We started out tonight with the Surcial. So Surcial is the driest style, the 1910 Leacock and the Barbietto. The Barbietto was really lovely, had a nice orange peel, and lovely kind of date and fig kind of notes, coffee and fudge, something I also get out of Madeiras. And this Leacock, unfortunately, a little light in color. You could tell the wine did not spend much time in casks. One of the things that makes Madeira magic, the amount of time in cask. And 21 years in cask, just not long enough. Really light, a little bit of that pancakey syrup kind of note to the nose, caramel, and just not up to snuff with everything else on the table. That was the only wine for me that was a little underwhelming. And it's that time and oak that is all important. Once you bottle a Madeira, that's it. It doesn't change very much. Essentially, it does change a little bit over time, but it takes a lot longer. Next up, the Verdejo from De Oliveira, 1912. And let's see, we had a couple of Verdejos. We had the 1905 Oliveira and the 1850, which, let me tell you, there is something magic about these older Madeiras. And even though the 1912 was great, the 1905 was great, the 1850 just had an incredible amount of concentration to it. A little bit of that model airplane glue, something that, you get in these old Madeiras. Once you open them up, you need to keep them open for several hours, several days, several weeks, several months. They have this bottle stank that they developed after being in a bottle for so long. And really, after a couple of months, they lose that, and they really do open up. These wines were only open a few days before the event, but still really nice here. And, Madeira, to me, has this lovely rush of acidity on the finish, which is a little bit too much for some people. It can just be, they're so acidic, it can be off-putting, and they're really great with food. To drink these wines by themselves, maybe a little tough. We did have some nuts, a little baklava, and some chocolate, which were very good. But to me, man, we do a Madeira tasting every year in the store where we focus a whole entire meal around Madeiras. And, these are wines that have a special place in our hearts in American history because our forefathers, when Betsy Ross was When she was knitting that first flag, she was nipping on a little Madiera after they signed the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. They toasted with Madiera. This was the one beverage that we did not get taxed on in the United States because it did not come from continental Europe. So you know us, you Americans, we don't like to pay taxes. All right, next up, we had a little Bastardo. This is the first time I've had this wine, the only black grape. And this wine had a note of kind of diesel fuel in it, along with that walnut, coffee, fudge, and a little bit of that VA showing there as well. But a really nice bottle and still very well balanced. The Terentej, which the Barbietto 1834. Wow, a stunner. One of my best wines of the night. And this wine just had a lovely, incredible bouquet of walnuts, fudge, dried dates, and figs. And a finish that just seemed to go on and on. It seemed like this wine could last another 100 years. Absolutely fantastic. Now getting into the sweeter styles, the Boals. We had a 1908 d'Oliveira and a 1903 and a 1907 Blandy Boal. So 3 different Boals, all, really nice. I think, for me, the d'Oliveira edged it out. It had this lovely coffee, toffee, brown spices on the nose, a lovely sweet date and fig kind of fruit, and this piercing acidity on the finish. Just really savory and really, really long, and a little controversial. Michael Broadbent rated the wine 3 stars, and Little rated it 5 stars, which those are 2 of the world's leading authorities on Madeira, other than Manny Burke and Dr. Bob Maliner, who we had at the table. And then the Blandy Camara Lobos. This is a wine that's a Solera, the only Solera, which is a blend of different vintages. And, well, since they've made this wine, they've since changed the laws about Solera. Not many people make them anymore because after the 10th time that you draw from them, you have to bottle the whole Solera, which is really not worth having a Solera then after that. So this wine, really nice. Had a lovely kind of pancake syrup, brown spice, dates, figs. Again, a little bit of that fudge, and really smooth and soft and elegant. Not quite as acidic as the other wines. Maybe it's because it's a Solera in nature, but a really lovely elegance and balance to this wine, and one of the wines of the night for me. Then on to the Malvazias. We had 1907 and an 1834, and again, the 1834, just killer. This could have been the wine of the night in the Malvasia. This is a wine that just had incredible complexity on the nose. Cocoa, toffee, burnt campfire wood, walnuts, dates, and fig kind of fruit, and the finish just seemed to go on and on in this wine. Just really long. I could still taste it the following morning. I think I could still smell it on my fingers, even after I took a shower. It's amazing. These wines just permeate everything that they touch. And then the Muscatel from 1900 kind of brought us down a little bit. After the 1834, this Muscatel used to be considered, it is the rarest of all the traditional varietals. You don't see it very often. And, pretty kind of bouquet of fudge, raisins, cola, pancake syrup, little roasted marshmallow in there, but just not quite as much, depth and complexity as the 1834. That's what we had to drink at the Madeira tasting. Just for your benefit, I've included all the Madeiras that we have available in the store after this review, folks. All right, next up, the rest of the stuff that I had to drink to finish out the week in the store.